Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Carly R.
And today we're joined by our very special friend, Halsey. Our special friend, Halsey. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Life is good.
Good.
I didn't get nearly enough sleep last night.
Yep.
But I feel like when I'm tired, I'm more likely to I don't have enough energy to lie or like make myself sound good. So
Yeah.
it's probably for the best.
Yeah, the ego doesn't have time to wake up.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Where are you from, Halsey?
I grew up in Bowie, Maryland.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Does it?
I don't know.
Yeah, in PG County, and I lived there up until I was around 16, and I moved to Crofton. So yeah,
It's a weird area of Maryland.
yeah.
For some reason, Bowie and Crofton they're just weird to me.
Well,
Why?
Bowie's changed a lot over the years. Like
Oh,
when I
yeah.
go back there, it feels like a completely different place.
Yeah,
like,
it got
was like,
built up a lot.
yeah, it's like a lot higher class. It seems like it was really like working class when I was growing up.
Mhm.
What I loved about it was it just felt like really diverse there. Like it was either go-go and hip-hop in the hallways, or it was like punk rock kids, or skater kids, or
Good
we had it
times.
all. Yeah.
So, when were you first introduced to recovery?
Introduced, I guess it wasn't until I was 27 years old. December 20th of 2017 is when I was introduced, and it was through treatment.
How old are you? 33?
33.
Oh man, I'm
You
good.
got
Yes!
it. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I don't know how you knew that.
I don't know either. And how long have you been clean?
So I've been clean since May 28th, 2021.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with all that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So, take it away.
All right. I guess starting back as a kid, I was I think I was troubled at an early age. I was an angry kid. I was a depressed kid. I remember being in class in like elementary school. I think I was like 10 years old, and I just started crying in class. And,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the teacher asked me why, and I said, I don't know. And after that, like I started going into like child psychiatrist, child therapy, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was diagnosed with depression when I was like 10.
Yep.
And that was like a lot of different medications trying to figure the thing out. And I would either take them and feel weird, or I would lie about taking them. And some of them would make me even more of an angry child, you know? I remember one time when I was playing basketball when I was a kid, because basketball was like my life for so long. Just feeling like the ref didn't like me, and he kept like calling me on blocking fouls when I was clearly taking a charge.
Yeah.
And I remember getting pissed off and throwing the ball at his face. Like,
Nice!
when I was like 12 years old.
That's savage.
Yeah. And yeah, after that they switched medications again.
Yeah.
You know?
You went full meta world peace on him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess it like my mom was one of the cool moms. Like she kind of liked she felt like I'm the youngest by like 5 years from my two sisters. We have different dads, and they were 5 and 6 years older than me, or something like that. 5 and 7 years older than me. So they were like in high school and partying and stuff. And my mom was the cool mom that wanted, to have the party at her house.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I was like, well, that's kind of cool, Mom.
Yeah. So I got introduced, and I think I tried like wine coolers for the first time when I was like
Oh, you ruined
12.
So that was your first drink.
That was my first drink, yeah.
it.
And I remember
We usually interject on people because they'll just like glaze by, like, yeah, I started drinking. We're like, what did you start drinking? Schlitz. And it's like, ugh, wine coolers.
Well, the first time I drank it, I didn't feel anything at all, but I acted drunk. Yeah. And like I did it to like get the attention at the party that was happening, and I wasn't drunk at all, but I was just acting wild and stuff.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of when I was even younger, like I used to spend like whole summer at the pool, like at the community pool. And I remember like drinking like these things that were like little sugar shot, I forgot what they were. It was like watermelon sugar shot kind of thing. It was like a kind of candy, and drinking like a bunch of them, and to like get a sugar rush. I don't feel like I got one, but I acted hyper to like, and I didn't realize that when I was a kid, obviously, but like after being in recovery, it was like, oh, I wanted to like be acting differently from something I put in my body way before I actually felt anything from, you know, any mind altering substance. And then first time I smoked weed, same thing. I didn't actually get high. And
I got so high.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, because I guess it was because I didn't inhale.
I didn't inhale. Okay, Clinton.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, my sister was like super popular, and like she was like like I was known as Alicia's little brother growing up, you know, and like I knew all the older kids and stuff like that, and I think it was like 13 or 14 when I finally did actually get high. It was 420. I remember I smoked, and like they were like, no, you gotta breathe in afterwards. And I got high as shit. And these kids, they were like older than me, and like I thought they were so fucking cool, and they intimidated the shit out of me. So like I didn't enjoy my high like at all. Like I was like, holy fuck, this is way too much. It was intense as shit.
Really quick, because you like followed the cool sister. Did your sisters leave, like, did you follow like cool sisters and they're like, oh, you're whatever, I can't remember your sister's names. They're little sister. Like, you know what I mean? Did they leave a good reputation for you to follow? Because my sisters did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, more so in like sports.
Yeah. Because you're all.
But my other sister, my oldest sister's 12 years older than I am, so.
Oh, okay.
It was like.
But you all went to the same schools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same for me. On my dad's side, my brother's 16 years older than me, and my sister's 18 years older than me. So I'm the youngest by like a long shot.
Yeah. So my 3 older sisters have a different dad, so we had different last names.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have any full brothers or sisters?
One, my younger. Okay. And so my oldest sister, total A-lister. And then the next one was like, not so good.
And then they had you.
And then my sister Sarah is a total piece of hot garbage. And they were like, oh, are you related to Sarah? I was like, no, she has a different last name. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know this chick.
I was like, no, she is awful.
I feel like there was part of my feeling different then was I didn't have any full brothers or sisters. I'm way different than my siblings. I mean, I love them all and they all love me.
Yeah.
But I'm way different than both sides, you know? And my mom and dad I couldn't even imagine them like hooking up or like loving each other. You know what I mean? Like they're so different, you know? Like my dad actually found out he had like super abusive alcoholic parents, and they always like told him he was like, they would like insult his intelligence his whole life. Like, oh, we're not expecting much from you or like that kind of stuff. And he took an IQ test when he was 40 years old and found out that he was a genius. He's in Mensa and stuff. So like at 44, when I like 4 years later, when he met my mom was an aerobics instructor and like completely different. My dad's like kind of liberal. My mom's completely conservative. They're like, they couldn't be more different people, you know? So my 2 sides of the family, brothers and sisters, are like vastly different. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So back to you having a shitty high.
Yeah. So a shitty high. Yeah. And then, well, I mean, for me, it was like that first time was weird, and then it was kind of fun after that, and then after that, it was just game on. Like I just loved marijuana. I chased it nonstop, and that first summer when we would drink together, there was like this. I'm probably snitching on it. I wonder if they still do it, but we would leave Bowie to go right inside of Lanham, and there was this place called Langways. It was like a liquor store where you could do a drive-through, and as long as you were in a car and you did the drive-through, they did not card you.
Game on.
So we bought cheap vodka every single day.
What was your cheap vodka go to?
I want to say it was Wolf Schmidt's.
Oh my God! Yeah. I was so afraid you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Wolf Schmidt is terrible. Wolf Schmidt is so terrible. It is the bottom of the barrel. It was made in the absolute
horrid.
Yes.
Yeah. Horrid.
It is made in a dirty bathtub.
Yeah, dude.
It's tastes like that, and then
it
pop
tastes
off.
Like charcoal. It's nasty as shit.
So bad.
Yeah.
And then pop off, and then wrinkle off.
Pop off. I think we got a little bit more often. Yeah. But like if things were rough and we had
Wolf Schmidt.
Yeah.
We used to drink Wolf Schmidt and Country Time lemonade.
Yeah. And we're a bunch of 15, 14-year-olds
Yeah.
like rolling up in there with like paying in change to get vodka.
Yes. At a brew through in Lanham.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that first summer, every time I got drunk, it was like the plan. Like I would drink to throw up, and then once I threw up, I was good after that. And every single time I drank, I threw up.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Did you puke and rally? Or did you puke and the night was over?
No, I would puke and rally, but
Fucking
it was
right.
very,
Fucking right. Up top.
very seldom that I actually puked.
Huh?
Said it was very seldom that I actually puked.
I puked
That's
all
how,
the time.
like, after that first summer, like, I guess my liver was like, okay, this is what we're doing now. So, like, I just didn't, like, after that, it was very rare I threw up unless I mixed drugs, you know? Like, just alcohol almost never made me throw up after that.
Oh, I always do.
Yeah, I just went through the gauntlet to
Oh,
get
yeah.
used. Yeah.
Yeah, you were drinking Walshman.
Yeah, exactly.
After.
Starting off strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I remember it was so funny. Like growing up in like high school, I think it was like 15 or 16 or something. And my friend, like a couple of my friends did ecstasy, and like I remember like judging the shit out of them and like telling them like you're killing brain cells. You're gonna be
Yep.
stupid.
Yep.
You know, like you can't mess with that stuff.
Yep.
And then like 2 years later, I was
Yep.
doing harder drugs than all of them. You know. Yeah, so like I just remember it was throughout high school, like I was a terrible fucking student. I never went to school. I skipped all the time. It was all chasing marijuana, it was all chasing alcohol, and every once in a while I'd do some other like pills or whatever. And then as soon as I turned, like after I moved to Crofton when I was around 17 or 18, something like that, I got introduced to cocaine. And after that, it was funny because I had no delusion about the fact that I was a fucking addict.
Yeah.
Immediately. And I started selling it, and you know my ego took over, and I thought I was the fucking man. I thought I was a little gangster, and like 18-year-old Halsey that's
You are not gangster.
a $1.25 tops. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I was
Soaking wet.
soaking wet. Yeah, on a day after eating a big breakfast.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, it became unmanageable very quickly, and I actually had like a very serious connect. Like there were Dominicans, you know, and I was fucking up my money. And I was starting to get scared, and like the guy that was the intermediary between me and the Dominicans like started telling me stories about like what they do and stuff.
they'll chop
And
you
I
up
was
with a
like,
machete.
okay, I need to take this seriously.
Yeah.
You know, I can't just be getting high on this stuff. Didn't stop immediately, but I did get out before getting killed, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, after that, I got introduced to, like, I had a girlfriend. She introduced me to heroin because, like, she was just like, you know, cocaine's so expensive. She was like, we should just go to the city and get dope. It's so much cheaper. And
That
you get
is
higher
the
for longer.
complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
I was like, hey, let's try it. It's only $10 for one of these?
Yeah.
Fucking sweet. Let's do it. Yeah. And then I fell head over heels for heroin. I think I was 18, and it was what I did. And then that relationship, she actually ended up cheating on me for my best friend in high school.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's funny because she reached out to me recently, and I was like, oh, you want to get clean? She was like,
shit.
no.
No, I was saying if you were good.
Yeah. I don't know what she was looking for, but I didn't have it.
I'm good, but not the way you want it.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, after we broke up and I like dealt with that, me and some old friends from high school started going to raves, and it felt like it was like my way out of my heroin addiction, you know. And I still, like, my mom had a Vicodin prescription, so I still like maintained every day off just stealing her Vicodin prescription, or her giving it to me sometimes. Yeah, most of the time just stealing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just did like a little bit of that every day. And without that, I like, you know, I couldn't function.
Right,
but like,
wig out.
yeah, I'd take like one and a half of those and last through the day. And then I'd go to raves, and you know, that was a really good time in my life, to be honest. Like, it was like, it really was. You know?
Sounded like
it was fun, you know? Yeah. And I don't know, like, because I'm a freak, and like I like to consider myself an artist and a weirdo, and you know, and I like to express myself. And I found this place where these people were just unapologetically weird as fuck.
Oh yeah.
And I fell in love like immediately, you know. And you know, the drug dealing thing came in pretty quick, and you know, I I was just always finding stuff for people, and I was like, well, maybe I should just buy it, and they should just get it directly from me.
Yeah.
And it was this place called the Black Hole in Dundalk. And
That sounds right.
yeah. And
Jesus.
and I became a house dealer there. So the guy who owned the place, you would have to pay him a percentage of it. And I just remember like, and then this guy came down from New York. I'm not going to say his name because I think he still does the same thing. And he started supplying the club, and we would just pay out to him, and he would pay the club owner. And then like it was really good fucking money. I was having a really good time, but like the opiates were starting to come back because I had all this money. And like in that kind of culture, that subculture, like it's a drug culture for sure,
100%.
you know, but certain drugs are off the table and certain drugs are taboo, and other drugs, you know, party drugs are acceptable. So like I had to hide this, you know, Percocet habit. And I didn't want anybody to know that about me.
Yeah, but what's crazy is like, which I didn't know for a long time until I really got into that scene. Meth, huge, huge. Like you wouldn't really necessarily be like, oh yeah, people are going into the club and doing meth. Yep, they are.
And you're doing meth whether you like it or not. Because if you're doing ecstasy, you're doing meth.
You're probably doing meth.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just remember, so every time I've like sold drugs and actually been somewhat successful, it was, first of all, it was always for a short amount of time.
Always.
Second of all, I always got this intuition that was like, it's time to stop.
Yeah.
And like these, like I firmly believe, like my belief is that
Do you think it was like the drug psychosis that was part of it? Because I would get paranoid as shit and be like, I gotta move. I'm hot boy as shit around here.
I really don't. I don't think it was psychosis, to be honest. I really believe that was like intuition. I really believe that it was like my higher power speaking to me. I do. Nice. You know, I guess my higher power was like, you know, jail doesn't need to be part of your story.
Yeah.
You're not built for that, bud. Good. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so, you know, it's the same with the Dominican selling coke. I was like, something tells me I might get killed here. Yeah. So I need to stop.
I've seen one too many machetes this week.
Yeah. And then at the club at the Black Hole, you know, it was great money, hand over fist. I could support my habit fucking easily. Ego took over again, you know. And I remember like I was there one night, and I started DJing around, like I was starting to DJ with this like my best friend at the time, and I remember seeing that they were selling Molly Jello shots at the bar for $20. So you would buy it directly from the club at that point. There was no plausible deniability that there was just people selling drugs at the club. You could buy
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And as soon as I saw that, people were like so excited about it and shit. And I was this is fucking stupid. I was like, this place is going down in flames. There was no doubt after that, you know? And I was like, I think I should see myself out, you know? And I slowly, you know, transitioned out of that and started really focusing on DJing. And then I think it was like 3 months later, maybe 4. I was supposed to go there just to have a good time on like a Wednesday night or something. And my ride bailed on me, and then they texted me a picture of the club, and there was like 20 cop cars outside of it, and everybody got arrested. And I was just thinking to myself, they had like a year-long case on the place.
Oh yeah, they were
specifically
that was a sting operation.
Yeah, specifically on the owner as well, who we didn't know this at all, but he also had in the basement like a huge like weed growing operation that nobody knew about.
I thought you were gonna say like gambling range. A whole bunch of Vietnamese people.
Doing fucking Russian roulette. Yeah, that would have been great.
All I could see is Frank.
Been right.
Just with the eye patch for no reason.
People got arrested. Some people got really fucked on that because they weren't even drug dealers, and people were throwing their drugs down. And I don't remember the guy's name, but there was this guy who was in the military who they threw the drugs down like out of the way, and it was down around his feet. So when the cops came, they pinned it on him, and he got like discharged from the army for that.
Yep.
Yeah. So like I dodged a bullet on that one, and then you know, I just started really diving into DJing and in the rave scene, and it was me and my best friend Zeus. We both lived in Pasadena. It was somehow, you know, and we were really hungry and really loved doing it, and we became very successful very quickly. Like we were both obsessed about, you know, making something that mattered to us, you know, and like we tried to portray like a bit of an image, because we, you know, we're like 21, 22 years old. Yeah. So we're like on Facebook, you know, talking about spirituality and fighting the power and shit, and going to raves and DJing, you know. And during this time, I mean, so like at first, the first like year, I would say I was really like about it, and I loved it, and I was hungry, but like my drug addiction was still there. I still had an opiate dependency that I was hiding from everybody, and I had to like wear this mask of like who I was and what I was like putting out there. And like I slowly but surely started hating myself for it, like recognizing that I was full of shit. These people don't really know who I am. What I'm doing here is complete, you know, it's a complete farce. It's all like fake and false. And like we came to the point where we were supposed to like take it to the next step. We were gonna like sign with an agency and stuff like that. And like I just self-destructed. Like I didn't work on it anymore. I couldn't like put on the farce anymore. Me and my partner started really butting heads a lot. You know, egos started taking over. I mean, that's my story, man. Like ego over and over again. It comes up, kicks my ass. Like if I don't humble myself, I get humiliated. It happens over and over and over again. And that was like the most public humiliation for me, because, you know, he was doing all the work. You know, he was doing all the work for us to get, he was still hungry and I was not. I hated it. I hated myself. I couldn't keep up the mask anymore, you know? So like I wasn't showing up. I wasn't doing my part, you know? So, you know, we broke it off. And then after that, I started dating this chick, and she was like, she did Suboxone, and it was like the perfect storm of like a really toxic relationship, really rough. It was like the person who I was like, you know, fuck this. I'm not going to hide who I am anymore. I'm not going to like put on a farce anymore. I'm just going to be the fucking drug addict that I really am, you know? And that was like a incredibly abusive and traumatic, relationship. It was terrible. And, I used to blame her for a lot of it, and going over my fourth step, like I recognized like how much of it was me and my self-pity and my, you know, in the basic text it says self-pity is the most destructive of emotions. And that's something that always stuck with me, because I become this toxic fucking leech when I hate myself, and I feel sorry for myself, and I self-destruct any good thing, and any bad thing I just make worse, you know? And it was weird because like I wasn't in this DJing duo anymore. He took the keys to the kingdom. He deserved them, to be honest, but I still hated him for it because I felt like I built it with him, you know? And, you know, like first of all, I lost my best friend. Second of all, I'm in this horrific relationship and I don't know what to do with myself. So I'm still trying to DJ kind of new solo project, but I have nothing in the tank, no creative juices whatsoever. Yeah. So it's just sad, you know, it's just sad. I have like terrible bookings. I'm not a good DJ anymore. I feel like people are feeling sorry for me, you know?
You're literally just you're Rickety Cricket with a trash can.
Yeah, exactly. My voice is hoarse. I'm looking, yeah, exactly.
Sounds great, you guys.
Yeah, and I'm like completely dependent on Suboxone now, and there was like no hiding. Like I was so skinny, such sunken, hollow eyes, you know, like I was such a shadow of who I was before. And yeah, it was sad. Like, it was like that for a few years. Like those 3 years were like really when I feel like I was at my most hopeless, you know, especially because of the Suboxone, man, like, because I wasn't prescribed Suboxone. I bought it off the street. I didn't have like a dose. So like I needed it every single day and I didn't know how much I needed. So I just adjusted accordingly, you know? Yeah. And
what did I take yesterday? I don't know.
I don't fucking care. I feel like shit today, so I'm taking this.
Double it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was just, and those 3 years, it was just me like being a washed up DJ, and I got a job in electrical work, and you know, I was, you know, stuck on Suboxone and just like horribly depressed. and living at my mom's house. You know, I never moved out on my own or anything like that. And I remember I was trying to kick Suboxone, and I was 3 weeks in, and I was feeling worse than I was the first week. And I think it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas. I think it was Thanksgiving came up, and you know, I was supposed to go down to Virginia to see my family with my mom, and I was so sick. And I didn't like. I was like, I can't do this, you know. So I tried to go in my mom's room and steal some Vicodin again, and she caught me for like the 50th time. You gotta understand, my mom loves the shit out of me. I'm like, you know, the favorite child, you know, like she enabled me. She loved me so much. She let me get away with fucking anything. And after 50 times of catching me try to steal from her, she finally kicked me out. Like she kicked me out of her fucking house, and I was homeless for like 2 weeks in my car. Basically, so she would go to work and I would drive, I would like leave. She'd go to work, so I'd go back to the house at 9:30 and stay in the house until she was about to get off work, and then I would leave again because I didn't know what to do, dude. Yeah. And I found a roommate with, I found two roommates who were both homeless too, and we got a spot in Baltimore in Charles Village, 28th and Howard, and that was like that was such a fun time in my life because at around this time I actually transitioned from my Suboxone habit, and I started using Kratom, and it gave me this level of denial.
Yeah.
That I was like, I'm no longer on a chemical. I'm now all natural. I'm still opiate dependent, but like I got my sex drive back and stuff. I felt like I had more energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I figured it out. I found the formula because that was always what I was looking for. You know, I was always looking for the formula. What's the set of rules? What's the parameters? What's the right, is it the weekends? Am I just supposed to do cocaine on the weekends? Am I supposed to just drink? Like whatever.
You could never duplicate it though.
No,
like
I tried to go back.
Dude, I did. Yeah. Like I was like, okay, I did this amount of this amount of this amount of this.
Never.
And I was like, and I felt awesome. So the next time I did that same amount, I was like, it's not the same.
Yeah. It's the hungry ghost, man. The hungry ghost feeds off of it working for a small amount of time, and then it'll never work again. And so, but it'll keep feeding you that lie that it'll work like it did in the past.
That's the title of this episode, by the way. The Hungry Ghost.
The Hungry Ghost.
That's solid. That's good. I'm like, oh, fuck. That's awesome.
Yeah. So where was I at? Okay, so I was living in Baltimore. I was starting to study like magic and metaphysics and like the tarot and stuff like that. Okay. And like I thought I was God's gift to the earth. Again, ego. Ego comes up. I think I'm the fucking shit. I'm telling people what color their aura is and shit. You know what I mean? And like I'm giving people tarot readings, and and like from being on Suboxone for 3 years and like I straight up like my penis doesn't work to like being on Kratom and having my own spot and like I'm getting laid and stuff. I'm like, fuck yeah, I am the fucking man, you know? And it was like it became so unmanageable because like I never had any kind of coping skills. That never happened. So I was just such an emotional wreck. And I believe now in hindsight that I was experiencing a kind of like mania for like 6 months in a row.
Yes.
Like a real fucking mania where I was so high on myself and on life in such an unsustainable way. And, I dealt with a lot of baggage with like women around that time and relationships and also my roommates. We fought and I was either like feeling amazing or I was angry or I was horny or I was, but I was never sad. I was never depressed. I was everything but sad.
I want to fight and I want to fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or I want to laugh, Yeah. Yeah. And it was a big party house, and like it started, it was one of those things that burned bright and then it burned out, you know? Yeah. And that's like that's a pattern for me, burning bright and burning out. If there's any kind of good, it happens like real strong and then it dissipates and I go back to the same place of completely unmanageable, completely sad and hiding from the world, And I moved out and I moved back in with my mom. And my mom, I guess she's always been an alcoholic, but it was like socially acceptable alcoholism. But when I moved back in with her, I guess it was like empty nest or something like that, or like it just progressed like, like the disease does. But when I moved back in with her, like her alcoholism was horrific. It was really bad. It was hard to watch, and it got worse very quickly after I moved in. And like, it was like being with somebody who was possessed by the devil. You know?
Alcohol is so gross.
It's a nasty one. That's why I call it spirits, man. It's the hungry ghost, you know? Like people, like she would be speaking in tongues. Like I felt like she was possessed by a demon. Like I really felt that way, because she'd be in the living room on the pull out sofa of her couch instead of her bed for some reason, and yelling about, you know, writing people out of her will, screaming at the wall about stuff that was incoherent, and I couldn't understand what she was talking about, but it was just nasty shit. And I fucking hated her for it. Yeah. I hated her for it. And it became this like blaming her for the way that I was. I was like, no wonder I am the way I am. It's because of fucking you, you know? And like, there was times where she, like, I'm selling weed out of her house, and she's like, you know, you got to buy me liquor because, like, you know, I'm going to die from detox. And like, she would give it to me, and I'd like parse it out for her. And then she'd be like, yeah, this isn't working. Just give me the bottle, you know? And the resentment and like the hatred. And also, like, I couldn't tell her no. You know, I'm living in her house selling weed and like not paying rent. So like, I'm you know, doing my part, I guess, you know. And you know, all I could think was like, I just need to get back to Baltimore in my own spot. Like, I'll be happy again. I'll be having fun again. Because I had that little 6-month period of it being fun. And like, so that's what I look for. I found a roommate who like was like becoming one of my best friends. Me and him like sold coke at the you know, clubs together, you know, and like he proved himself as a super trustworthy guy, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's get a place together, you know. So we moved to Station North. I think it's North
Avenue?
Yeah, North Avenue and
Dude,
Charles.
You do not belong on fucking North Avenue.
I do not. I didn't know it before I moved in there. Yeah. Well, apparently I do, actually, because we'll get to that part. I didn't, but yeah. So we move in together, and you know, I'm like, very shortly after moving in, I was like, oh shit, like this isn't fun. Like I thought this was gonna be fun again. What happened? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was sad immediately.
It was the different cocktail. It was the cocktail of life.
Exactly. The Hungry Ghost told me it was going to be different.
The people, places, and things.
Yeah. It told me it was going to be different. It told me it was going to be the same, and it was not, you know? And, you know, he went off to like do this like cooking gig at like a festival in Ohio with his friend, and he got paid like $3,000 for it. And when he came back, he started smoking crack, and like with all this money he had. And he went from
what do you want to do?
We would get high together all the time. Yeah, exactly. We would get high together all the time, but usually we do coke together. And it was pretty bad, and we were pretty bad with coke and stuff, but he was still like,
who the fuck was ever good with it?
No, well, by comparison, I guess is the right way to put it. It was, I'll just do a little coke. No, I guess what I mean by that is like by comparison to when he started smoking crack, because he was, I wasn't worried about him stealing from me or becoming a different person on it. Like we would just be fiending and run out of money, and you know, that shit would suck, obviously. So we weren't good on coke.
There's this hilarious meme that's like these people who just look like 17th century like royalty, just looking down. They're like, we do cocaine, we don't smoke crack. Yeah. That is exactly how I felt.
That was me.
Yes,
exactly.
100%.
Exactly. And that's why I never like thought of asking for help, because I always thought that people that went to treatment
were crackheads.
I knew that Narcotics Anonymous existed, but I thought that was for people who were homeless, dope fiends, and crack addicts, you know. And I never used IV. I never did needles, and I never smoked crack up to that point.
Did you ever smoke crack?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you.
It's not on brand for you, but I'm glad you explained it. I'm glad you expanded your horizons.
I did for a little while.
Yeah.
I would smoke coke, but I would never smoke crack.
So yeah, when he came back, shortly, like I still was fighting the tide and not trying to smoke crack. And he stole my rent money. This is before I started smoking crack, and I never like could prove it, you know?
Good for you.
Yeah. I never could prove it. And I remember on the street, I was like looking for coke from random people on the street. And this dude was like, yeah, I got you. And he gave me crack. He sold me crack. So like I went home and I had like a little chillum for smoking weed. So I tried to, I was like, one crack, please. How much would you suggest for a first time user?
$50? That sounds reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I went home and I smoked it out of a little chillum, and my roommate was like, "Man, I gotta teach you how to do this correctly." So like, he taught me how to smoke crack.
Yeah. We're not going to go into it for our listeners.
Yeah.
Don't Google it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't smoke crack. As Whitney Houston would say, crack is whack.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm very grateful for crack cocaine because it destroyed my illusions.
Everybody was.
Yeah. I destroyed my illusions of my life ever being different than what it was becoming right then. Like I was inevitably going to end up, whatever circumstances were in my life that might have given me hope, like throughout all of these years of using, whether it was the new woman, the new job, the new cocktail of drugs that might work for a little while.
Yep.
Like I was always going to end up in my room, scared of the world, like having to do what I have to do to get high. A lot of times during my addiction, like I couldn't muster up whatever to go and get money. So I would most of the time just be miserable in my room alone. And like once money came along.
Sad, I want crack.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get to recovery?
So this was actually how it happened. So in Thanksgiving, I like by that point I was completely lost by it. And I was like maybe like 110 pounds. I hadn't eaten anything in a long time. And Thanksgiving came up and my mom, I was gonna go over there to get the first meal I've had in months and to get some money from her so I could get high.
Yeah.
And she obliged, and my mom at this point, I forgot, like when I moved out, when I moved to Baltimore, I was like taking carloads of stuff and my mom was like, "Can you take me to the hospital? I need to go into detox." And I remember like dropping her off at the hospital. And I don't even think I said a fucking word because I resented her so much. And this wasn't the first time she went into treatment. And it didn't take before. So like I remember like stopping at the hospital and I didn't say anything. I just waited for her to get out of my car and then I went off to Baltimore. And 6 months later or so on Thanksgiving, I came back to her apartment and it had been renovated. She was like lively and happy. She had these friends from AA and she was like a completely different woman. Yeah. And I remember there was a guy there, and at this point I wasn't going to insult anybody and tell them I was doing okay. You know? I was like obviously completely in the grip, you know. And I he asked me, "Well, you ever think?" I told him straight up, I was like, "Yeah, I'm smoking crack and I'm doing heroin every day and like I'm miserable, And he was like, "You ever think about going to treatment?" And I was like, at this point, yeah. And I'll never forget how he handled it. It was attraction rather than promotion. He didn't get in my face and say, "You're going to die out there. You need to get clean. You need to get into treatment." Yeah. He just said like, "Okay." And then he treated me like a human. And after living in Baltimore and Station North, smoking crack every day, like I was treated like a fucking animal and I was living like an animal from everybody, And it was the first time I was treated like a man by somebody in a very long time, and they just dropped it and treated me normal. And we just had a Thanksgiving together. And then a couple months later, my roommate, who became a complete fucking monster at this point. He was a 3-time Iraq war veteran. He was a trained fucking killer. He had PTSD and he was a fucking crackhead. And he would steal from me. And I remember he stole from me like after like the 50th fucking time. And this was money that I was in the hole from somebody else for now. And I like went into my room and started punching the wall. And he like banged into my room, got in my face and he was like, "What the fuck are you going to do about it?" And like, that was when I surrendered. Yeah. Like, cause I was like, holy shit, all that's ever going to happen to me in this life is I'm going to just get taken advantage of. I had no dignity. I was always going to be scared in my room. And, I left, I went onto my fire escape right after that. And I called my mom and I was crying my fucking eyes out. And I was like, "I need help. I need to go into treatment. Like I can't live like this anymore. And we had an eviction notice there was a fork in the road here. It was like either I was going to become a homeless, real like bum drug addict, or I was going to go into treatment. So she got me into treatment. And that's where it started for me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I want to go. So like, first of all, I fell in love with recovery immediately. It was such a relief, I was like, holy shit, there is another way of life. So like I was completely enamored by what this thing was, everything they talked about doing, they suggested I did it. I went to meetings every day. I got a sponsor. I worked steps like as diligently as I could. And I got 2 H&I commitments. I was speaker seeker for my home group. I was just doing the damn thing and I fell in love with it. And I remember like after my year clean, I got a year clean, and after that my pink cloud dispersed, and
that happens a lot after 1 year.
Yeah.
It happened to me too.
People burn bright, man. That's my thing. Like I burn bright, super like super hot, super all about it, and then once it wears out and I'm left with like the wreckage of like who I really am. And I'm also like, I'm really impatient with my process and how I'm changing with my step work, because I'm becoming more and more aware of who I am, and it's not changing. I was like, oh, I figured it out. This is what needs to change. So change.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Yep.
And I was getting impatient with it, and I wasn't aware of it back then, but I was starting to really suffer with self-pity. Like I felt tired all the time. I've been dealing with chronic back pain my whole life. That was a big justification for my opiate addiction. And I slept on my back wrong one night, and I woke up the next day with a twisted back. This is me like working out, eating well, like doing step work, going to meetings all the time. And I feel like shit every single day.
Yep.
And I'm like, why the fuck? And I didn't know it, but I had a reservation of like, if I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing to the best of my ability, I should be feeling better. I should be feeling good all the time. Yeah. That was really like, I didn't recognize that was my expectation, but it was, And like I was writing in a journal back then, and I remember writing down that I wanted, like, I just wrote. I read back on this, and I was like, it was just seeping with self-pity. It was like, fuck this. I'm going to the store. I'm going to buy Kratom. I'm going to keep an eye on it. That's what I said. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Yeah. So I made a little deal with my disease. Yep. And the Hungry Ghost, man, it told me it was going to be like it was before. It was going to, no. It was going to tell me, it told me it was going to be better than it was before, because now I had recovery. Yep. So I was going to be able to really manage it. I was just going to do it when I had back pain or whatever. And immediately, I was doing it every single day, and I was in a recovery house, and I was suffering from denial from it, but it became apparent pretty quickly. Like I wasn't admitting it, but it became apparent. I was like, oh shit, I relapsed. Yeah. Like I got to get honest here. Yep. And I told my recovery house, I think it took like 3 months. Oh yeah, I remember I picked up an 18-month key tag when I had known that I was definitely not clean anymore. Yep. And I never felt so gross about myself in my entire life. Yep. And when I picked it up, like I was like, oh shit, yeah, it's time. You got to get honest. And I got honest, and it started this 2-year-long cycle of going back and forth from like with Kratom back to the home group to get a white key tag, back to telling my sponsor, starting the steps over again. And like this happened over and over again. And there was a couple times I got like 3 months once. One time I got 9 months during COVID, like going to Zoom meetings and stuff. And then I got a root canal and a crown in early 2021. I got 2 in the span of a month. So the first one, he like said to his dental assistant, like, so go ahead and give him hydrocodone. And I was like, oh no. I raised my hand. I was like, no, I'm in recovery. I don't need that. You can just give me ibuprofen. And I was like feeling all good, And then 3 weeks later, same exact dentist. Yeah. Didn't say it out loud, so I didn't get to, declare.
Just gave you the piece of paper, and you were like,
yep. I was like, as soon as he handed it to me, I knew exactly what was on that piece of paper. Yeah. And like, I just stuffed it in my pocket, and I left there. And the whole time I'm hearing like my conscience say like, you haven't used yet. You know, you could call your sponsor. There's a chance here. Mm-hmm. And I went to Rite Aid to fill the prescription, and it was they were out. They were out of it. They were out of stock of hydrocodone at Rite Aid. And
you were like, Rite Aid is bullshit. I'm going to Walgreens.
Exactly. So I just started hearing like bells were ringing, like, call your fucking sponsor. You still haven't used, dude. You can make it through this. But I had made a decision. Yeah. You know, I made the decision to get high, and it wasn't going back. Mm-hmm. You know, and after this, I think I had like a 3-week phase of it, and a guy from my network, he had been calling me, and I wasn't answering. He called me like the night before, and I was using kratom at this point. I had run out of my prescription, obviously, and I like thought to myself, I was like, yeah, tonight's it. After this, I'm getting rid of it. And I call, like, I was like, I'll call him tomorrow. Get honest. I got to get back to I got to get back to where my help is. Mm-hmm. And he called me at 9 o'clock. I probably stayed up till like 6 o'clock in the morning that night. I couldn't sleep. I flushed my shit down the toilet. And then I got a call from him at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. It was actually Josh. Oh, nice. Josh K. Yeah. And he was calling me at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, all right, I'm going to call him back. I just need some fucking sleep. And then I heard it knock at my door. I was like, son of a bitch. Yeah. I know who that is. And they came in, man, and they just let me spew all of my judgmental self-deception shit about recovery, all my judgments, all the things I thought was wrong with it. And my other friend, Dan G, like I was like, I did all this. I did the step work. I did, I was going to meetings. I got service commitments. I was like, I did all this shit, and here I am. And he was like, yeah, you were going through the list. You forgot the last one. Don't use no matter what. He was like, without that, none of all the other shit, you're wasting your fucking time. Yeah. And we went out and played disc golf, and I just bitched about my life and bitched about recovery while playing disc golf. And I played the best game of disc golf I've ever played. Like, I'd never played that well in my entire life. And I wasn't even paying attention. I was just like, fuck this, fuck that. And it was just like, he was like, Josh was like, you're playing really well. Dude, you're killing it. Yeah, exactly. And, and then I did the same thing. I went back to the home group, called the sponsor. But like, before that, I was realizing, I was like, I don't want, like, because it was every time it was the same thing. I got to pick up the white key tag at the same home group. I got to call the same sponsor. And I loved this sponsor. He knew me so well. We had such a deep connection. But I just knew I needed to change my landscape in recovery. I knew that, like,
you had to get a new cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. This one actually worked, though. I decided to change sponsors. I decided to change home groups. It was an incredibly difficult decision to make, but I knew I needed to make it, And I did it, and my recovery, like my networks, there's still some overlap from my old network, but it's a completely new network now. I'm in a different area, I love our area. Oh, yeah. I'm super grateful for it. Super grateful for the new home group too. Yeah, it's amazing. It's the best fucking home group. I know. People at Tradition House always give me shit because I'm like unabashedly like, yeah, your home group's nice, but
it's trash.
Exactly.
It's the fucking best.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it was literally me, Brad, and Greg the other night. We just did a 35-minute meditation. It was cool. Awesome.
So it was only 3 people? Yeah, I remember like last year, around the same time when Christina celebrated, there was like way less regulars that came, so we just straight up shut down the meeting that night. But this time last year, it was
we debated and we were like, no, let's just do a long meditation. Hell yeah. And we did. And
yeah, because like for a good solid like 2 months last year, it was like 4 people pretty often was like all we had at the meeting. And those are like some of my favorite meetings. Oh, yeah. It was like we meditated for a while and then everybody shared for like 10 minutes each. And that was like, it was just so intimate and great. I love those meetings, man. Yeah.
All right. Well, we definitely have some questions for you.
All right.
You have some questions?
Carly, would you like to go?
No.
Okay. I know your pen died. I offered you mine. Okay, so you talked a bunch of times about we've talked about this on our podcast, that there comes a point in your addiction that you just surrender to your addiction.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, okay, this is going to be what it is. Yeah. How did that trajectory really like change the scope of your addiction?
Yeah, I mean,
because once you accept it, like the old fun is not as fun anymore.
Yeah, and I also had different phases, man, like throughout it. So like, you know, if people ask me what my drug of choice is, I'd be like, well, depends on what year. You know what I mean? Because there was times where I was a festival kid and a party kid, and I like to do a bunch of psychedelics and, ketamine and stuff like that. And those were my drugs of choice. Yeah. It is pretty gross. It's so weird because like I don't think I liked ketamine most of the time I was doing it, but it was like a solid like 2-year span where it was like I did it all the time. Yeah, same
I did
here.
it twice. It was fucking
Yeah, it's a weird drug.
I did it the first time I did it. I was like, I'm on a whole bunch of other shit. I think there's the cocktails.
I gotta try it again.
The cocktail's wrong.
Yeah.
So then I tried it without anything else. Just
like,
straight
this
ketamine.
is worse.
And I was like, oh my god, this is so much worse. I was like, this is fucking horrible. I was like, this is trash.
Yeah,
this is a trash drug.
So I mean, to answer your question, it's like so it was always like these bursts. My sponsor, like I don't remember reading this in the literature. I'm not the best literature thumper, to be honest. But he,
Those people annoy me anyway.
Yeah, when we were talking, what he quoted to me was like, we were almost forced to keep using if we thought we had control over it, something along those lines. So like, I always was like, I can't, like there was phases where I surrendered to it. It's like, I'm a fucking dope fiend now, or I am, a crackhead now, or whatever. And it, like, I didn't have much choice, so I surrendered to it. But there was always like me trying to find the cocktail. That was my experience, And when it really took over, I'm grateful it took over the way that it did, when it did, because, my like comfort of being able to live rent free or whatever, I had burned that bridge, and I was really gonna lose myself to the streets of Baltimore, and I'm not built for that shit. So yeah, I got my ass kicked because I wasn't just getting stolen from my roommate. It was like I was prey on the streets of Baltimore, no matter what, going out and doing what I had to do. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carly, what you got?
So clearly relapse is part of your story. So like in and out and in and out. Like what was that experience like continuously, like leaving the rooms and coming back in, difficult, shame, like? So the majority of my relapsing was actually, well, both times, but the first time, I had like 3 real relapses. There was a couple times where I was like trying to stop, but it barely lasted. But for the majority of that time, I was actually living in a recovery house. And when I would start using Kratom again, because they didn't drug test for it, I was trying to go to a couple meetings a week so there wasn't questions asked. And then it became like I fucking hated being in meetings so much using and like not getting honest. Every time they were like white key tag, there was so much shame, like pulling my heart down. I felt so gross being in that meeting and not getting honest about the fact that I needed help, because I was worried that I was going to get kicked out, so every time I had to surrender, it was always like, are they going to kick me out this time? And they didn't kick me out. Like after 3 times of using, like 3 times of relapsing when I lived in that recovery house. And like, I remember it was so hard. Like I would always try to save face, and then I would give up on saving face and still be living in the recovery house, just playing video games all fucking day and not even going to my home group anymore. And like the amount of shame just being around these people that I knew and loved and had a real connection with. And I knew I wasn't showing up as the same man anymore. And I knew these people knew what was going on with me, but nobody was calling me out on it. So I was just gonna, until the pain got great enough, like I just kept struggling through it. And there was always this fear of like me getting judged for it too, because when I was new in recovery and on that pink cloud, again, ego.
I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the NA rookie of the year. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing, you know, like all this step work. I got up to my 5th step in my first year. Like how, like, you know, I'm going faster than y'all motherfuckers. I've got like, you know, 2 service commitments. I'm overdoing it so much. And, you know, the shame of me now having relapse as a part of my story was like, oh, like I'm full of shit. These people are going to finally see how full of shit I am and how my ego's been running the show and see me for who I really am, you know? So it was so hard to get honest and to humble myself, you know? And nowadays, like going in like this past like few weeks after I just finished my 5th step, getting into the exact nature, like my sponsor pointed out these 3 separate things and told me how related they were, and my conscious, my higher power, whatever, kind of just like made it obvious. It was like, oh, the thing with these 3 things that he's talking about is a lack of humility. Like that is the answer to these 3 things. That's the thing that is causing the exact nature of your wrongs here. Is it's always been like that, you know, like this ego. What do they call it? Terminally unique. Like the
tragically unique,
the rules apply to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys need these rules. Like it keeps you guys.
We are the world's greatest piece of shit.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm special. Yeah.
Oh, I was the best
Such
piece
a
of
trap.
shit ever. You guys think you guys are pieces of shit? I was a better piece of shit than you.
I'm a scumbag.
I was a shiny turd. You good? Okay. I was like, all right. All right. How do you handle mental health and emotions in recovery?
Love this question. So I think one of the major differences in my recovery and what's made it more sustainable this time.
Meditation on Thursday nights.
Yes, and meditation daily as well. I meditate. A new practice of mine is every night before sleep I do this, like I call it the grace embrace. Working title.
Okay, yeah.
I'm still looking for
we're gonna workshop that
the next one. So right before bed, I use the Insight timer thing. I put it on for 5 minutes. Often I go longer than 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll put it on for 10 minutes, but like I go for 5 minutes, very minimum of me meditating and like just trying to invite in my higher power and trying to like search for feelings of when I feel that presence. And it's been a game changer for me. It's been like I've been feeling way stronger with my conscious contact and way more in touch with my intuition and just guidance and stuff like that.
It's fine.
There you go. So, and I'd say the main thing for me, because this time last year, I was in a deep depression. I was clean. I had just moved into the recovery house after like my life fell into shit. In recovery, stayed clean through it some fucking how. And like I was just playing video games all day. I had no job. I had no idea how I was going to make rent every week. And I was so like, I was back in that place of like, you know, this is where we use. It's not when tragedy strikes. It's not when real pain hits me that I get high. It's when I'm in that mind-numbing numbness of not feeling life in my veins. That's when I get high, you know.
When you're in the routine.
Exactly. The routine of misery and self-pity. Yeah. And so like what I recognized was like, dude, I need discipline. I need consistency. You know, I've got this rabbit or like this gerbil in my head that's running in running in one of those things. What do you call them?
Just a hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel. There you go. Thank you. So not a gerbil. So hamster and a hamster wheel. I've got this thing in my brain that
it's a rodent.
Is going. You know? Yeah, it's a rodent of some sort. It's definitely. Yeah. And it needs stuff to do. And if like, I truly believe that I have like energy in my body and I have energy in my head that if it's not being utilized, it turns against me. So like I need to go to the gym. I need to shut it up through meditation, and I need to have some kind of creative endeavor that I am focusing my addictive, obsessive nature on. Without that, like it turns into self-hatred. I turn into, like I hate myself.
We will obsess and compulse about anything. Like
about my pain. I'll obsess and compulse about how I feel all day. Yeah. So I've always knew this, and it took a while to internalize, but I needed to recognize that just because I don't, like, if I don't get used to doing shit that I don't feel like doing, and I'm only doing shit that I feel like doing, then I'm never going to have a good life.
Yep.
There's no way.
Yep.
And it took so long for me to be able to push through that invisible wall that was like, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. Do the fucking work, you know? So it was kind of fighting against that cycle of burning bright and burning out, I guess, you know, because for it to be sustainable, I have to be consistent. Yep. There's no way around it.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what you got, babe?
So you talked about early on when you felt real different from your siblings, talked about the resentment with your mom. How has your relationship with your family changed after putting in the work in recovery?
So first of all, I knew I didn't want to take up too much time, but like the reason my life was so 2021 in December. So like about 7 years ago, my sister had an aneurysm, and like this was my sister that was super popular in high school. I was like for the first like year in high school, I was Alicia's little brother, you know, and she had an aneurysm, and she went from being like life of the party, everybody loves this chick, to being in a wheelchair, and she had this beautiful singing voice. Now it's like more of a chore for her to talk, and I hid away from that. Like obviously in my addiction, I didn't show up as a brother. And then even in recovery, I just like, something told me like, you're not ready for this, to like address this and be a brother, you know, like, so I swept all that shit under the rug. And I was like, in 2021, I realized, because I was working so much, that I was going to miss the one time a year that I see her, which is in Christmas. I see her once a year, Christmas. I tell her, I'm going to come by and hang out. And then I don't do it, you know? And something just told me, like, because I was going to miss it, was like, man, just go be a brother. It doesn't need to be about Christmas. Just go see your sister. And I went there, and all of that shit under the rug, all that grief, all that guilt of not showing up, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It broke me. It broke my relationship to my higher power. This is all in recovery, you know? And I had never been in such heart-wrenching pain in my entire life. And like, then I got fired from FedEx. You know about that story.
Yeah. He got his FedEx truck stolen.
Yeah. I left the keys in the ignition.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Dude, it's so funny because when I'm in the shit of it, when I was in the shit of it, and I would tell some of my friends in my network, they're like, well, that was fucking stupid. And they would laugh at me. And I'm like, fuck you, man. My life is ruined. This isn't funny.
Did they steal the whole truck or just
they stole the whole ass truck? Yep. And we got it back like 30 minutes later, but the damage was done. And then they fired me shortly after. They said FedEx security has disqualified you from work. Yeah. So to get back to the question, so like mending that relationship with my sister has been a huge source of like just dealing with my baggage. But the relationship with my mom is better than it ever has been. She's in recovery. Her life is recovery now. She's going to, I think she's at a convention this weekend. She goes to conventions all the time. She has a shitload of sponsees. I go to her celebrations. I know a lot of the people in her network. So that was like a huge gift of recovery, was like, I mean, I'm not even going to lie, and my mom's probably going to end up listening to this, but there's still some baggage from childhood. I mean, who doesn't deal with that in step work, you know? And there's still like weird, super subtle resentment stuff, you know? But all in all, I fucking adore my mom, and she's like such a great woman. And I've really come to realize how much first of all, she was working on her best information, and her worst crime to me was loving me too much and letting me get away with fucking anything. Yeah. You know? So a big part of my life and like why I blamed her for shit was like, I feel like to accomplish shit, I need work ethic, and I wasn't raised with this shit. So I have to learn it. I'm 33. I just started learning it like at 32, you know? Yeah. So that's been a struggle.
Don't look at me like that. That's rude. All right. Last question. What's going to be my last question? We'll do a fun one. All right, so I don't know if you've listened to Christina's podcast.
I have.
The Donkey Story.
Moral turpitude.
Moral turpitude.
She just celebrated.
I know. So the Donkey Story. She kidnapped a donkey and then walked it around town and then brought it back.
Brilliant.
So what is your donkey story? What is
Holy shit. I don't have a donkey story like that.
No, nobody does. Nobody does.
Huh.
I had some decent ones, but mine were more like, you're a
piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit. Yeah.
It's like, hey, David, do you want to go pee in people's mailboxes? I really do.
Or shit in golf holes.
Shit in golf holes. I know that story.
God damn it.
I'm trying to think. I mean,
I'm so mad at myself for that because
Eric
Eric
steal the whole axle off of cars,
Oh yeah,
the entire thing instead of just the tires.
Eric totally fucking shot a hole in that.
do you need a lift for that?
No, you need cinder blocks and an acetylene torch. It's really easy.
Okay.
We'll
Sweet.
go over
Will
it
you
later.
want to show me later? Yeah. Okay.
No, Eric was like, "Why are you shooting in golf balls? It's not some like rich guy."
Exactly.
You're
doing this to the working
the
class.
groundskeeper.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was like, "No,
Idiot! What do you think?
All my
Some rich guy's
rebellion
gonna see that and he's gonna yell at Jose to clean it up, dude.
I fucked over Jose. I'm sorry.
Poor Jose.
Poor Jose. I'm so bad. So what's the most ridiculous shit? A ridiculous, hilarious story. If it's sad, don't say it. It has to be funny.
Okay. I mean,
The FedEx truck is pretty funny.
the FedEx trophy is pretty funny. Because that was pretty idiotic. But like I've since forgiven myself.
Yes.
I mean, I can't think of it. Like you're kind of putting me on the spot, so I can't. I'm not thinking of one now, but I can say that as a teenager, I was a fucking pretty bad vandal. So you're talking about peeing in mailboxes and stuff.
Yeah.
We used to drive by. My buddy had this minivan, and we would just be drinking. I don't know how we didn't get arrested.
No, yeah.
But we would all day be driving in a
Drinking and
minivan.
driving. Oh, yeah.
We're all 16 tops.
Yep.
Drinking 40s.
Yep.
Opening we would call
sliding
them drive-bys.
Yes.
Yeah. We would open the sliding door and then we would like moon people or we would like, I would stick my whole body out and just be like, hey, you, fuck you, like at a random bystander. And then we'd close it up and then we'd move on to the next place. And we would drive all around Bowie and just do that all fucking day.
Yep.
And somehow never got pulled over. I don't know how it works. Yeah. But like some of my vandalism shit was unacceptable because like I did some pretty big damage, and like one time I think I was like 20 at this point, so like my vandal years were behind me, but I was hanging out with a friend from high school and we were drunk as fuck, so we like just decided to go be vandals again.
Yes.
Yeah. So weird.
Did you ever do that shit?
What?
You just vandalize shit randomly?
No, I can't say that I did.
Yeah, I don't think you would.
I remember
It's
we
not
did.
on par
I'll have
for
to
you.
think about that, but I don't think.
I don't think so either.
So
That was me.
I straight up went to this place that they had like parties at, and I don't know why, but like it wasn't a party night, and I just like went to the front porch. There was a little kid's bike. I grabbed it and I threw it through the Bayview window.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's terrible. I still feel guilty about it. Please don't use this in court. Yeah. And what else was it? And I remember one of the funnier ones that was highly destructive was this was back when we were still teenagers. Like, you know how it is growing up, like with a group full of guys.
Yes.
Usually there's like one that like is the butt of the joke or the one that we fucking
course.
bully all the time.
Course, yeah.
Yeah, it was
terrible.
Were you that person?
No, I was the bully.
So was I.
I was the bully.
I was the bully too.
Yeah. I instigated the shit out of it.
Exactly.
Because if it wasn't you, it was fine.
Yeah.
You were like, I don't want to take that heat.
Exactly.
Fuck this kid.
Exactly.
You know?
I still sometimes was like, oh, I feel bad for this kid.
I've
but for the most part, I was like,
so
well,
many
it's not me.
times.
Yeah. And I remember my buddy had gotten these fireworks from Kentucky that were no joke. They were legit.
Yes.
And we went to his house. His parents were home. He was not hanging out with us. And we opened the screen door and we put like a real, I don't remember which kind, but it was like one of those one that goes pew!
Yeah, like a fucking mortar.
Yeah.
A fucking mortar in somebody's house.
Inside. So between the door and the
They just had like
the
a
front
little
door
vestibule.
and the screen. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sent it in there and then booked it. Such a dick move, dude. Yeah. And we even went back and did it again in his fucking mailbox. Blew up his mailbox completely. Yeah, so there was I have a lot of those stories. A lot of vandalism.
Shit for laughing at this.
Yeah.
God damn it. That shit's hilarious.
That side of me is still with
terrible.
me. I'll never do it again, but it's still funny.
I've never done it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
Still
totally
funny.
alive.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's terrible. All right. Do you have a final question?
No, let's just wrap it up on that one.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying not to judge you guys.
We're gonna
There's
end
no judgment here,
We're
but
just gonna end on a low note right there. No.
just gonna leave it there. And
Yep, totally. Great women are better than us.
It's true.
Yes. So we want to give you a quick minute. Talk to anybody out there struggling who needs to hear a message of hope and strength. What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, just know that, like, I mean, for me, what kept me away from seeking help for so long was thinking that I wasn't bad enough, or at a certain point thinking that I was too bad and that this was just my lot in life. So whatever that lie is that you're being told, that keeps you away from help and keeps you away from believing that there's a different way of living or that you don't deserve it, just don't believe that shit. And if you're in recovery, new in recovery, and you're struggling, don't believe that lie either, you know. And if you have relapsed and you're worried about being judged for it, my experience says that you will always be welcome back with open arms, you know. And one of the main things I notice, and I struggle with this too, is like sometimes I get caught in my friendship in social aspects, in meetings. Mm-hmm. So like after the meeting, I'm like excited to talk to my friends, and sometimes I forget to talk to that newcomer that looks super uncomfortable.
Yep.
And just know that if you keep coming back, and like sometimes we forget to like address you, or if you haven't like asked for help because you haven't gotten the courage to do that yet, if you keep coming back, we will you know, we will show you love, and you will become part of this thing with us. And one of the main things that keeps recovery sustainable is making friends. So find your people in here, you know, because like without that, I don't know if I'd be clean right now, you know, if it wasn't for the people. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest Halsey for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Yay. This is a joy.
Oh, yeah. All right, so here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Go to all our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to learn more about us. Go to podcastrecovery.com. Like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to become part of the family, please join our Patreon to help us keep the mics on, because we are self-sustaining. But most importantly, everybody out there,
stay safe and stay clean.